Real quick before we get started, we have two quick announcements. Number one, a Jack and Jill shirt. These are my dogs and they're on our logo. They're super fun. Go check it out. Thanks Bonfire for making that design. This podcast was brought to you by Dragon Shield. Check out the affiliate link down below to help support the show.
And let's get into the podcast. I'm not doing any editing to that. Welcome to the Play to Win podcast, where we talk about winning in cEDH. I'm Cam.
I'm Dylan.
And this week, we actually got a couple different topics that we're going to talk about. And our first topic is actually multiple topics that we're going to combine into one topic.
I'm excited about all of this for a couple of reasons. One, I love talking about magic stuff and multiple topics. Two, this time we're doing the podcast intro is going much better than last time.
Yes. Oh, boy. You should have seen the other intro that we did. Maybe that'll come at the end of the video.
Let's get into it.
All right. So actually, a majority of our topics today is from something that we got submitted by our patron Joey Aarons, who asked us a question: what commanders are you suspicious of in cEDH? This was a note that I had on my big list of podcast topics that I keep.
Yeah.
And they took a scroll through it and saw this and had this question for us.
Suspicious. Okay. So what are we defining as suspicious?
So it's really like, what are we looking for in commanders to be qualified to be considered a cEDH deck?
So when you see those aspects in other commanders, you're suspicious. You think those decks will be good, probably.
Or suspicious that they might not be too good either.
If they don't have those things.
If they don't have these things, right?
Understood.
So we're really looking to figure out what it takes for a deck and or a commander to be cEDH viable.
And I feel like we've talked about that a little bit in the past, but maybe not completely fleshed out.
It was like a brief topic that we talked about in the very first weekly podcast that we posted. That was like my test editing podcast.
How did it go?
I thought it went pretty well, but the time will tell.
All right. Okay, but we haven't really talked about it in full feature length.
No, and not like a full detail. And he's got another note that we'll talk about later down the line. But this is, I think, a good start. Is what are we really looking for in a cEDH commander?
Should I go first, or do you want to?
Well, I want to get something off my chest first, because I think it's important to have this out and said before we get into this.
Okay.
Is that technically any commander can be cEDH viable.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Like, really, we should really establish what our cEDH mentality is before we even get into this. And that is that you're taking a commander and you're pushing it to its most optimal, most powerful play style and ability.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can make any, like you said, you can make any commander into a cEDH commander. It's kind of tricky because like the idea of cEDH is everything is optimized. You're playing everything because you think it's good. There are some legendaries that are just strictly worse than others that are just no good. You can still make a cEDH deck out of that commander, and it could probably still win a decent amount of games. The 99 and the player ability and luck are very important, probably much more so than what the commander is.
And we'll get into that as the podcast continues, too.
Okay.
But I definitely agree with you there, too, is that, like, again, any commander can be there. I think what matters more, as you said, is your mindset, and that you're trying to win the game. You're not trying to do interactions that are cute because it's fun for the table. Maybe sometimes you are, but your prerogative is to win the game and not to interact and make sure that everyone, quote unquote, does their thing. You're trying to do things that are actively putting you ahead to the finish line.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of tricky because I feel like the definition of cEDH has kind of wavered. When I started playing originally, it was you're playing to win. Like that was why we named the show this, because like that was the main goal. If you weren't doing that, it wasn't cEDH, people would say. Whereas now I feel like the dynamic and conversation has shifted where like you can still be playing cEDH and pet cards. Like that is an option. You can throw in one or two cards that aren't optimal, but for you really like them, so you feel they play well for you. That can like totally be okay in cEDH, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that once you get to know, you know when you see.
Right.
You know, that's kind of what cEDH is.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a feeling thing. And I think we could talk about like specific things that I look for in a cEDH deck, but today we're specifically talking about the commander, not what we're looking for in the deck, right?
Well, I mean, that's also part of the conversation too. The 99 is also a part of the conversation as well. I'm just starting with the commanders because you got to start somewhere.
Let's start with the commanders then.
Yeah, so there's really 5 things that I typically look for in a commander. And again, like we said, any commander can get wins in a cEDH game, but the ones that are going to be the best have at least one of the 5 things that we're looking for.
These are the things that Cameron and Dylan as human beings look for in cEDH commanders. These aren't what is required for a cEDH commander. This is what I'm playing. If I'm playing a cEDH commander,
ideally I would like to see.
Right. If I'm playing a cEDH commander, it's got some number of these 5 things, and Cameron the same.
And these aspects that we're looking for are card advantage, mana advantage, it's a combo piece, removal, or it provides beatdown.
Right, a haymaker, something huge that wins the game via attacking or just existing.
Exactly, yeah. And all these are very important. They vary greatly in terms of which one I would rather have over others. But really, any combination of a multiple of these things together is very important.
Should we just talk about each one of these in a row?
Yeah.
What we're looking for. So card advantage. We're looking at, I want to draw cards mainly. Card advantage can be used in other ways, but for me, the main thing that I'm looking for out of card advantage is I want to draw the cards. I want to have the options in my hand. Because I want to be playing blue spells, that's why I want to be drawing the cards specifically as my advantage. That's kind of a whole nother thing. But getting cards into your hand, you're already at a disadvantage in cEDH. In Commander, there's already 3 other players. So no matter what, your opponents have 21 cards when you have 7. So drawing is so much more important in this format than I think in any other format. Like, no matter what the deck is, any deck could use card draw. If you're a combo deck, a mid-range deck, an aggro deck, a control deck, all of them in cEDH want card draw. In other formats, that might not be true.
It's literally the most powerful thing that you can do in Commander, I think, is drawing cards. So having it in your command zone and having access to an engine that can get you more cards every single freaking game is super duper important and is the top thing that I'm looking for in a cEDH Commander.
An engine is, I'm glad you said that, not like one instance of drawing a card.
No, not like when it draws a card at ETBs.
No, you said that a little backwards, but I understand what you meant. Like Omnath is the perfect example. Sans Black Omnath, when it enters draw a card, to me, that's not advantage.
No.
I want something like Ristic Study. I want something that says whenever an opponent does X, Y, Z, whenever I do X, Y, Z, I want a source that, like Thrasios, that I can dump more mana into, like Tymna, that I can get extra cards every single turn.
Nimrus, whenever I do something, I can get a card from the top of my deck. And I think that it's important to distinguish also the difference between draw a card versus like a commander that lets you loot, or like a commander that lets you exile the top card of your library and only get it until end of turn. While it's still good, like if you can keep the card in your hand so that people don't have knowledge for what's coming and you have the opportunity to time it when you need it instead of when it's available to you, is also an advantage that you have that you should take if you can.
Interesting. So like being able to time it yourself, being able to control when you're using the cards and gaining the cards, you're saying that's more important than kind of anything else.
Like I'll take Ob Nixilis Captive Kingpin because it will still get card advantage, but if there's a version that they print later that has a draw card effect on it instead, maybe that's something that I'd rather do instead.
So here's a comparison between Ob Nixilis. It draws cards mainly based on what its opponent does. You could also play something like Rograk and Tevish, which is Rakdos that has card advantage in the command zone as well, repeatable card advantage, but you control it rather than the Ob Nixilis, which is kind of not controlled by you.
That's also a good point.
Which do you prefer here?
Oh, that's a great question.
It's kind of tricky because recency biased. Ob Nixilis is just printed and it's doing a lot of cool things.
But it might also be dependent on what you're trying to do with your deck and your play style. Because I think if you want to go faster, Rog Tevish is what you want to do. But if you want to be a little bit slower and more controlling and actually take advantage of the advantage that you have in the command zone, I'd rather go with Ob Nixilis, I think.
That makes sense. I mean, if you're basing your card advantage based on your opponents, you want the game to go longer because the longer the game goes, the more stuff your opponents do, which means the more card advantage that you get.
Well said.
Whereas if you're being aggressive, you want to be in control of the card advantage because you need it immediately. I want it on turn 1 or 2. I don't want it on turn 6. I don't care about it on turn 4. I need that card advantage on turn 1, turn 2. So that's where you go aggro.
Yes, I really like that. Yeah.
I feel like that sums up what we're looking for in card advantage as a commander. We didn't really talk about specific commanders that we're looking for to do this. So I mentioned briefly things like Tymna, things like Thrasios, things like Ob Nixilis is a new one. Kraum is, of course, a very popular one.
A very classic one.
Cards like Tivit. We shit talk Tivit a lot because it's 6 mana, but Tivit does give you clues which do draw you cards.
Tivit does 4 of the things on the list, actually, which is part of the reason why it's so good.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Tivit a lot in this podcast,
exactly.
actually.
Yeah, Tivit draws you cards, which the clues that it makes. It makes you mana, which the treasures that it makes, which is why it's really more of a 4-mana commander than a 6-mana commander, kind of, because you're almost always getting those 2 treasures right away.
Right.
It's also a combo piece with Time Sieve, which is another box, and it's also kind of a haymaker. It's got Ward 3. It's a big flying attacking creature.
It's going to win games by attacking, definitely.
Yeah, so it's also kind of a haymaker. The only thing that it doesn't do is removal, and in my opinion, removal is kind of the lowest thing out of those 5 on what I'm looking for in a commander.
Honestly, I'm at a point now where The next one on our list is mana advantage. And so I think this is a really good transition into this, where sometimes I think this is actually the worst one on the list.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on the kind of mana advantage that you're getting, because there's a difference between getting mana from a commander like, I was about to say Zur, but I meant to say Urza. That just has like so much mana stapled onto it based on how you build your deck and like what all that deck is capable of, and the amount of 0 mana rocks that are in the deck because of things like Ashnod's Altar and stuff like that. That's not the card I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Tormod's Crypt, and for some reason I said Ashnod's Altar.
I feel like they maybe like in the lore do similar things. Lore? I said lore?
Something like that.
Let's get it back on track.
All right, here we go.
Mana advantage.
Yes.
I think that oftentimes mana advantage really only works when it's paired with another one of these things.
Yes.
So with commanders like Thrasios, they're good because they kind of give you that mana advantage, but they also can give you the card draw. With cards like Tivit, they kind of give you that mana advantage. They give you the treasures, but they also give you a bunch of other things. Cards like Kinnan. Kinnan gives you that mana advantage, but it also puts stuff right into play from your deck. It gives you card advantage too. Winota, same thing. It's saving you mana advantage by putting the things right into play, but it's also finding those things. It's that card advantage.
It's card advantage too. Yeah, something like Arden that is only mana advantage and doesn't really give you any other kind of advantage. That's something that I'm not as into. Where like you need to then rely on, like you have to be playing Crown so that you get some other kind of advantage from your command zone.
Right.
That's where I don't like the mana advantage as much.
Yeah, and I feel like mana advantage and removal and Haymaker even all kind of fall in this category where like you can have one of these things, but you still need the mana advantage or combo piece.
Yeah, there's something else has to
right? Otherwise,
partner with it.
Exactly, because it's just the best decks have multiple things. Like the best deck besides Timnacron, which is like probably the best deck in the format, that only has card advantage in the format.
It's two forms of card advantage that are the best forms of
It's
card
just got
advantage, which is enough.
It's got enough card advantage that it doesn't need any of the other shit. But I would say for most other commanders, you need multiple of these things for them to be what I'm looking for.
Yeah, combo piece is the next one here too. I would also consider commanders that tutor under this category too.
As a combo piece.
Yeah,
kind of.
like Magda kind of acts as like a combo piece for that reason
and
too.
Mana
And
advantage. It has both.
It's got so much. Yeah,
Goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
I was here last week. It goes both ways. Is that what it is? Is that the line?
No, I was here yesterday. It goes both ways.
Rograk is another one that weirdly provides mana advantage. I mean, maybe not weirdly. It's well known that what Rograk does is enable a whole bunch of free shit. That's mana advantage. That one is kind of all that Rograk does, which is again kind of strange because Rograk is one of the best decks in the format. So like I said, this is not what's required to be a CEDH deck. These are just what we need to play a CEDH deck.
Stereotypically, this is what you're looking for in a CEDH deck.
But Rograk has something, it has so much mana advantage, it has so much speed, and it's in such good colors that it's still good. Like
it can
it has enough of it.
sacrifice card advantage and combo piece and removal and Haymaker because of speed.
Right, because it is just the fastest deck in the format.
But I don't consider speed to be a full category for a commander because there's not a lot of commanders that can do what Rograk can do.
Only one.
Oh, there's only
one deck can be the fastest deck, in my opinion.
Oh,
Any deck that's the second fastest, why?
What's the point of having that bumper sticker? I'm the second fastest.
Right, if you're not going to be the fastest, you have to go, in my opinion, if I'm not playing the fastest deck, I want to play a deck that can control. I want to play a deck that can beat the fastest
You
deck.
might as well be the slowest deck.
Right, like or like a middle of the pack deck, like a deck that has more power. Like if you're gonna sacrifice even a touch of speed, you have to fill your deck with power, I think, because there's just no point of being like the second fastest, I think.
No, I totally agree, because you will definitely come at a time where you go up against the first fastest, and if you don't have a plan against the faster deck, then I totally agree. What are you going to do?
The reason that the second deck who goes for the win wins isn't because they're the second fastest. It's because the other decks were strong enough to stop the fastest deck, and they were win. So you have to put strong cards to stop that fast deck.
So getting back to combo pieces, would you consider Rograk a combo piece technically?
Not
it doesn't really
really
combo with anything.
I don't think it combos with anything.
It combos with
it just makes
diabolic intent.
It just, I guess, kind of. It just makes like a lot of the cards in your deck much better, much faster.
It makes the cards in your deck good. Really
mana advantage. It gives you just enough mana advantage.
That's really all that it is. But yeah, a combo piece is very important because that's what's going to win you the game. And always having access to your combo piece from it being in the command zone just makes it super easy.
We're playing Singleton. We're playing 99 cards. It's hard to find one card out of that 99. There's a very small small chance, 1 in 99, that you're going to find it. So if you have already one of your pieces in the command zone, it makes it so much easier to win. Cards like Nagila, cards like Tivit, that only need one other card. Just need that Derevi, just need that Time Sieve. These cards are ones that can really win the game quickly because you always have access to it.
You're not wasting all these resources and all of your time trying to assemble things and hope that they stay in play and then pass the turn and shit.
Yeah.
Like, you're just able to win the game super efficiently, which is really nice.
Windows,
yes.
commanders that are combo pieces, they allow you to find your window much easier because you can kind of go for it sort of whenever you want a lot of the time. That's not, obviously that's not always true, but if you have access to half that piece right there, it makes it much easier to find the window.
Yeah, it's just more windows is all that it is.
Exactly.
Windows 95, I would say.
I would say Windows 95 or 96.
Not 97.
You're right. Not
Vista.
97. Yeah, that's no good.
Removal is another category.
Is that really 97? If that's right, that's so funny.
Wait, what? What is?
Windows 97. Is it called Vista?
No, didn't Vista come out until like the 2000s or something?
Oh, I don't know. That would be really funny if like you knew that 97 was the year Vista came out and you're like, Vista.
What year did Vista come out? Oh, no, 2006.
Way off.
Yeah, way off. Okay. Removal is another option you can have in your command zone. Jessica is normally the card that I think of with this because it's really like one of the better removal options that you have.
To me, it seems Jessica or Armix are the only ones that I really see.
Toxrill.
Toxrill's another one. And Marath, the Naya one.
Marath, yeah, because Marath can like ping off little things.
This one is only really good if it's, again, combined with the other ones. The reason that Jessica is good is because she's also a combo outlet. The unfortunate part is she's like the third piece of a combo outlet, so she's not quite as efficient as some of the Nagilas.
Yeah, you
or
need
Tivits.
like other combos so that she's an outlet is really what it is.
And I've been playing her with Timna a lot recently. I actually just took that deck apart. But with Timna, you also get the insane card advantage of Timna, so it allows you to have kind of a more well-rounded commander package.
Yeah.
That being said, I think removal is kind of low. A lot of times you'll be expected by other players to answer and remove things. You'll be forced to. You'll have to get rid of something because it's a win condition or something like that. So it reduces your windows in a way that it's kind of strange because you have to do things that you don't necessarily want to, which is not where you want to be in a deck. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Like it limits your options because of other players' expectations.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes there's a win on the table and you have the removal there, so you have to waste your turn to do it. When the player after you, maybe they have a Swords to Plowshare, or you think that they could, but you don't even get a chance to because you kind of have to, or you might be dead.
So it puts you in situations where it's like, okay, well, do I leave my commander up, or because do I know someone else has something, do I like use my mana on something else so that I don't have it up anymore?
Right. And then sometimes you'll like lose games that were like your fault because like you had the removal spell.
Yeah, but why didn't anyone else draw removal?
Right, exactly. They don't have it in their command zone.
That's
why.
Fault. Yeah.
Blame
their
more
fault
removal
for not having it in the command zone. Why do you even have removal in the command zone if that's the case then? It's so stupid, yeah. But then the beatdown is the final thing that we're looking for, like a Haymaker, something that's going to be able to win the game via damage.
Yeah, and this one I feel like is the least used.
No, this is definitely important if you are playing a stacks deck, and that's, for the most part, it. Like, in a lot of more mid-rangey decks, like, it's kind of nice, like Atraxa. Like, it's kind of nice that they can also win the game by hitting someone for 3 turns in a row and then do that for 2 other players. But that's not like going to be that's not a good way to win the game. So it's more just like an incidental thing that you can do.
Yeah, cards like Nagila are ones that I consider Haymakers too, because Nagila, for just 3 mana, you're going to amass a board that's going to overtake the table in like less than 10 turns. Like, you're going to be able to kill everyone. 10 turns is obviously a lot. And I think there's definitely a math equation that maybe we can rip off of the Nagila primer that explains how long it'll take you to kill a table. Either way, Nagila is a great version of this. Nagila is one of the best decks in the format, but there are not a ton of other options. Tivit a little bit, we talked about.
Yeah, really any of the new, like, huge CMC, large flying commanders are going to be on this list too. Also, like, Kamal, there's a lot of, like, stack decks that are looking for this. Jetmir is another thing that is, like, more beat down in the command zone.
Korvold can get pretty huge.
Yes,
Ishai can get pretty huge.
Yes, exactly. Which is, again, something that worked well for Jessica Ishai was that it had removal, combo piece, and beatdown. The 3 things that you want the least in commanders.
You want a lot with that game, right?
I want a decent decent amount off surprise, and then people caught on to what I was doing, and then I stopped winning the game. And I played it in a tournament, and that's not a tournament deck for me. I can't do well in tournaments with that deck.
Just everyone knew what you were doing. They had the removal.
Hey, it's the Jessica Ishai guy. I know exactly what you're up to.
Yeah.
That's not helpful whatsoever.
You need any advantage you can get. Me too.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to start choosing the deck I played for tournaments the night before. That's going to be me now.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All right, yeah. So like we said, there's a lot of commanders. Well, we want commanders to have a lot of these things. I think we talked about a lot of the commanders that have a lot of these things.
We talked about card advantage.
Yes.
We talked about mana advantage.
Yes.
We talked about combo potential.
Yes.
We talked about haymaker ability.
Yes.
We talked about removal.
Yes.
These are basically the 5 things.
They're basically the 5 things.
What other things could a commander have? I mean, some commanders like get big. Some commanders, what else did commander do? Now, I mean, I feel like largeness is.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the haymaker thing.
That's the haymaker thing. Yeah. So like the only other thing that commanders will typically do is like cute interactions that synergize with weird cards in commander. And this is where we start to get on the okay, well, you can win games spectrum, but it's going to be a lot harder to win games because the more that you have to dilute your deck to make your commander good, the less good your commander is going to be. Like unless it's diluting the deck so that your commander can be card advantage. Like I'm thinking Yuriko, for example. Like Yuriko's a blue-black deck that dilutes itself by playing a bunch of ninjas to allow Yuriko to be card advantage and the beatdown at the same time. But it's because it can do those 2 things that make it work really well. The problems start to arise when you have 6 mana commanders that say you need to play this creature type in your deck and they all get a bonus like first strike or something like that. Like those types of effects from the command zone really are going to make it a lot tougher for you to win.
Yeah, the rate on those abilities has to be very high. Things like Jetmir get away with stuff like that just give your creature stats because it adds up very quickly and Jetmir's rate is very good. It's hard to beat a 4-mana creature that does what Jetmir does, so anything that does it a little bit worse, why not just play Jetmir, is going to be the conclusion you'll eventually come to if you're building for cEDH.
Yeah, it's really nice to have these stepping stones as you're getting into cEDH. I think that's usually a lot of people's first question after they play EDH and when I get into cEDH is, well, can I just take my EDH commander and pump it up to a 10? Yes, you can.
Sure,
you can totally do that.
Yeah.
Go get yourself a Mox Diamond and a Mana Crypt and all these other, fast mana cards. Shove them in there and, focus your game plan instead of playing around your commander, around winning the game efficiently in various combos that you might not have played before. And yeah, you can totally do that.
What'll probably happen, though, is as you do that, if you're honest with yourself, eventually you'll probably say, oh, I should just build another commander instead of my pet commander because it's better to do that. And even if you don't want to do that, I think it's perfectly fine to say, nah, fuck it. My pet commander is close enough to another good cEDH deck that I'm going to make it like that, but have my own couple tweaks. I mean, we do stuff like that with new commanders from new sets all the time, where we take a commander that we know is not really very good, but you can play it in the shell of its color combination, swap out 6 cards for 6 cards that work kind of well with the commander and call it a day, and that can be a great cEDH deck a lot
You're
of
not
times.
going to win every single game, but you already only had a 25% chance of winning the game, so
you can definitely get away with it.
I definitely think so too.
You can definitely win games with any commander. Like we've said from the beginning of this episode, it doesn't matter what the commander does, even if it's a 4-mana vanilla creature, you can win games because the 99 is often more important, and so is player skill, and so is luck.
Yeah, well, that's a great transition into what we're going to talk about next, because Joey had an additional note attached to his topic here.
Part B, let's do it.
So Joey says, there have been a lot of really good cards printed, and I feel like it's made of decks that couldn't compete in cEDH now have a fighting chance, like the One Ring. Therefore, the meta has changed so much from just last year that it's hard to say what semi-decent commander isn't cEDH viable, because with the right tune and pilot, any deck can win tournaments, like we were just saying. It's why Liberator and Magda won their debut tournaments, because no one knew how strong they were, and oftentimes that's what will win you the game. Having a niche strategy so people don't know when to interact. Sorry about the typo, my phone was being weird.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what was the first part supposed to say? What was the first sentence supposed to say?
Something, I feel like it's made a lot of good decks that haven't been able to compete now.
Okay, I understand.
And I think that his example of the One Ring is like the perfect example of a card that just goes in now every single deck as like one of the best card advantage engines that they can have in the deck. A super easy thing to get into play on turn 1 and turn 2, and is just constantly going to have value from the cast trigger, from tapping it all the time. Like the One Ring is the perfect example here.
We were talking about before that controlling your card advantage can often be better than when your opponents get to do it, because when your opponents get to do it, you push you into late game. The ring is kind of nice because it does pace itself out, but it lets you kind of control when you get those cards. You can draw at instant speed, you can tap at instant speed. So I kind of like that extra flexibility of the ring that gives you control over when you can grab those cards.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that leads us into that question. Is the 99 actually more important than what's in your command zone?
Yeah, dude, that's a hard question to answer, honestly.
I would think that normally it is, because those are the cards that you're playing with most of the time.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's more cards. There's 99 cards. There's more than 2. The commander is so important because it's in your opening hand. You always have access to it. So it's crucial to pick a good one that you always have access to. But if the other cards in your deck are total trash, your commander is never going to win the game.
Yeah, what's the point of playing Timna Krom if you're playing all like 9 mana cards that you're never going to be able to cast?
Exactly. If I play Rograk Silas and I'm not playing a good Grixis deck, that deck is not going to win any tournaments. But if I play an incredible Grixis deck with nobody as the commander, I can still win games for sure.
Yeah, and in those cases, like I feel like Grixis is like the perfect example of who gives a shit what your commander does.
It doesn't matter what the commander is.
Yeah, you can just play ad nauseum and ramp into, peer into the abyss and then win the game really quickly after that.
Exactly. You're in Thassa's Oracle, you're in Underworld Breach, you can do those things. Without a commander, there's enough fast cards that get you there quickly. The commander just offers an additional boost. It would, of course, be helpful to have Rograk and Silas, but if you put those 2 decks against each other, the deck with a good 99 and no commanders, and a deck with broken commanders and a shitty deck, the 99 good deck, that deck's going to win like 99 times probably.
99 out of the 100 times. Yeah. And the more cards like Drenith Magistrate that we start to see, the more we need to start relying on things other than our commander to draw us cards and to win the game.
Honestly, yeah, the reason that Blue Farm is so good is because you don't really need your commanders to win the game. If there's a Dranith out, who fucking cares?
Like they're just gravy. They
exactly.
help you win the game, but they're not necessary.
They're not necessary. Yeah, like I 100% agree with you.
So the more that you're leaning on your commander, the more susceptible you are going to be to those kind of stacks pieces. And the more commander products that we get, we just keep flipping coins to see if we're going to get more commander hate. So
yeah, that's true. Eventually we're going to get another Dranith Magistrate effect or something like that that'll do something similar for sure.
Right, like what I love about Dranith is that, it's not necessarily intended to hit commanders, but it's definitely something that they had in mind when they were making the card.
Right, and now knowing that it's very strong, I wonder if that'll make them use this effect more or less, seeing Dranith Magistrate out in the wild.
Which is interesting because I feel like the casual side of the format doesn't like this kind of effect because, again, it's preventing me from doing my thing kind of thing.
100%. Yeah, I would never play Dranith in a casual deck.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, not what I'm trying to do.
I'm not saying you shouldn't play Dranith in your casual deck. If you want to fucking do that. But
yeah, but for me, absolutely not. But for CDH, I love this effect.
I want to play it on turn 1 like most times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for CDH, this effect is incredible.
Yeah, so part of me wants to see more of this for cEDH, but I'm also a selfish asshole, so I think maybe that's why.
Right, and I feel like they know the community doesn't love Dranith Magistrate. I mean, the vocal community that I've seen has not been a super big fan of that card in regular Commander, which is fair. So I don't know that they're going to print more of that effect. Nonetheless, it is always going to be more powerful to not have to 100% rely on your commander.
Yeah, exactly.
I think.
So at least having options outside of your commander, I think, is really important. So I think that does end up making your 99 end up being more powerful than what's in your command zone, and that is what's going to matter more for that reason.
Truthfully, I think the real thing that's going to win you the most games is player skill.
Really.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah, you being a good pilot is the most important thing. Yeah.
100%. Like that's like a good pilot with a shitty 99 and a new pilot with a great 99. The good pilot's going to win. Not all of those times, but like a good chunk of them.
Magic has a ton of variance built into it, so
ton of variance, but still good. Being a good player, knowing your deck inside and out, knowing what your tutors can go for, knowing what board states you can win the game from, knowing what board states other players can win the game from. Being a good politicker, which is something that is not a skill in any other Magic the Gathering format. Those are all things that'll help your win probably more than even your commander.
Yeah, most definitely. You can sit there and think about what you're going to do to counter the meta all you want for a tournament, but if you're going to go and you're going to play like trash, it does not matter your deck is.
Yeah, exactly.
To bring this back to the other thing that Joey had noted too, with like Liberator and Magda winning their debut tournaments because nobody knows how strong they are, this leads me to ask another question. How do you you deal with decks that you don't know anything about?
Yeah, experience and I don't know, like it is truly an advantage. Like having information in Magic is always an advantage. So when you know
a very important advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you know what your deck does and your opponents don't know what your deck does, you have advantage right out the gate. The best way to combat that is to play Magic for 20 years until you recognize the patterns really well. Like that's like not 20 years, but you just have to play a lot of Magic, I think. Get tutoring from people who are better than you. Try to imitate the people who are better than you. Watch other Magic players. Being like, that's the only way that you're going to get better and figure out how to combat stuff like decks that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Like eventually you'll just know artifacts can do this, and tutoring, he's in mono red, so what are the options you can find? You know what I mean? You'll be able to get an idea of what the player is going for without ever seeing it. But that's
you're
hard.
right. If you can look for the things that every single deck does and every single player needs to do to win the game, and if you can find where the player is in that process, then I think, again, you don't need to know what the commander does and what's going on in the deck. You can just hit them where it hurts if you can time some kind of interaction correctly there. Where it gets dangerous is when, you overcompensate for how much you don't know about the deck and just target it too quickly and too soon versus just kind of letting it go, and then it does its thing and then it's too late instead.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. It's hard. In my experience, the only way to know that is with experience. You just have to try to play all the decks and just know that, okay, if you play against a new deck, there may be a higher chance you lose that deck because you haven't seen it before. Take that loss and try to get it the next time.
Yeah, sometimes I'm much more okay with those losses and taking those losses if I don't know what the deck is doing, because that's how I'm going to learn about it then too.
Exactly. That's the only way you learn and get better is by losing a lot. At least in my experience, the only way to succeed is to fail a whole bunch. Yeah. The only way to get better at Magic is to lose a whole bunch of games. Eventually, you'll see the patterns
and then you
avoid
go,
them.
okay, well, maybe I should counter that spell this time, or maybe I should have cast Silence a couple spells ago, because then all this couldn't happen, right? There's a lot of those are the niche times that I mean. I don't necessarily mean like, oh, hey, I'm not too familiar with Magda, but I know that there's 5 treasures. I'm going to fucking kill Magda when it comes up, and you need to. But
you're just trying to get people to stop killing Magda.
I should stop killing Magda so much. Oh, man, it's tough. It's tough having a 1 toughness commander right now.
Yeah, that's true. In an Orcish Bowmaster world, it gets even harder. I've seen that card in like almost every deck I played, I feel like.
At this point, Orcish Bowmaster
I see it all the time. Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be able to get away from it. It's going to come up in like every single game.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's basically what I have to talk about for what we're the decks that we're suspicious of, for lack of a better term. Really, to summarize it, we're not really suspicious of any deck. If something is sitting in front of me as a cEDH deck, I'm going to take it very seriously, and I'm going to play against it expecting that it's going to be able to come at me with the full force of a cEDH commander.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the only thing that you can do. Your bias is going to weigh in, and sometimes when you've seen a deck win 100 times, you've never seen another deck before, you're going to want to lean more towards to try to stop that deck that you've seen 100 times before. I would always just take a second look at the deck that you haven't seen before and try to think, okay, what are they trying to do? Are they playing with cards that are close to other cards? Use your experience as a Magic player to try to evaluate them a little bit.
Also, ask questions. Like if you have 2 other opponents that also want that player to lose, so if they know something that you don't know, that might be helpful information to help you decide what to do too.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I know we were talking the other day, Dylan, you just completely revamped your entire cEDH deck lineup.
I did. Yeah, no one was suspicious of my deck, so I had to change it all, I think.
So I just was curious about the decks that you put together, but I kind of wanted to talk about why you took everything apart that you did.
Yes. Okay. So I had Timna Jessica together. I had Thrasios Dargo together, and I had Atraxa together as my like main 3 decks for the past 3-4 months, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, your quarterly rotation.
Exactly. I rotate my decks kind of like once a quarter, once every 3 to 4 to 5 months, somewhere in that ballpark, unless I really like the deck. But more often than not, I really never stick to a deck in cEDH. For some reason, that's just not how I play the format. I think because of what we do, I want to play as many decks as possible, so I'm always switching. I want to know what all the decks do. In other formats, I'm lock-in type of player, but cEDH it's a little different. Why I took the decks apart. Timna Jessica, great deck. I was playing Hoarding Broodlord line, no ad nauseum. That was probably wrong. Probably should play ad nauseum, to be honest with you. But the main issue that I have with Mardu strategies is I feel like I could never protect a win. It was so easy for other players to stop me.
That's funny considering that you still like Silence and Ranger Captain in there too, but it's not enough.
It makes your combos an extra piece. It just felt like they would counter the Silence, or they would, you know what I mean? They would have counters for both. Everyone's very suspicious of Mardu because I think it has the most raw power of any of the color combinations.
Well, we kind of made this whole summer Mardu summer, which I think also also didn't help.
Right, yeah. So it's just, it feels to me like it's too easy to interact with. My opponents blink and I'm out of the game. It's happened a lot. The deck can be powerful. I'm not saying don't play the deck. For me, I was just getting, I don't want to say frustrated, but just kind of like, I'm sick of playing Underworld Breach and draw spells without a Thassa's Oracle. It just feels like I should really, like, it would just be so much easier if I had Thassa's Oracle.
That's really what those Mardu decks are missing is Thassa's Oracle.
Yeah,
That's really what would make them excellent.
So I switched from Timnit Jessica to Rograk Silas. I'm sick of playing bad decks.
Thassa's Oracle, okay.
Exactly. Like, I want to play good decks in this new lineup. I'm playing not all Thoracle decks, but I'm playing all decks that are among, like, the top 10 decks in the format, I think. Whereas in decks past, in the past, like, year or so, I've been really dipping more into fringe decks, and I want to get back to the light. I want to play some powerful cards. So I'm playing Rograk Silas. I'm playing Brian Cook's list. I'm just going to play his exact list.
His exact 99 or 98.
98, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the deck is still great. It has a lot of options. It has a surprising amount of draw. A surprising amount of grind, even though it's as fast as it is.
A lot of wheels. Still on Narset?
No Narset right now.
No Narset now?
From what I saw, but I could definitely be persuaded to swap one card for Narset. I think Narset's super good right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
But yeah, so I'm really excited to play that in Vegas. These are the decks that I'm going to be bringing to Las Vegas, which we're going to coming up. Super excited about.
Or we might actually be there now.
We are there right now. Is that so?
I think we are.
Oh, interesting.
Hello, Vegas.
Hello
We're here
from Vegas. Here we are. Next one I took apart. Next one I took apart was Atraxa 7 mana.
You've been talking about taking this one apart for so long.
Every time I play Atraxa, I say I want to take it apart right afterwards.
So how many times did you end up casting Atraxa?
Less than 10, less than 5 probably. It just seemed like it was always, there was a Drannith Magistrate out before I could get it out. There was a Collector Roof before I could use my rocks. It took me 4 pips is just like so many pips. It felt impossible to cast. Tons of other people are having tons of success with this deck. I just could not find it. There was a couple times where I got to displace your kid in the Atraxa. That felt pretty good. I've gotten to go off with Food Chain, which I always love doing, but it feels like it's on hard mode for me. Just like having to go for my 7 mana commander just felt too difficult. It felt like there's other options. So I switched to Tivit. I'm on Tivit, a deck that I've said I have hated for a long time.
Yeah, cut a color to play this deck we've been shitting on for a long time.
I don't hate Tivit. I was just kind of confused as to why it was doing as well as it is. I kind of understand a little bit better now. It checks off 4 of the 5 boxes we're looking for in Commanders. It doesn't do any of them particularly excellently, but it does all of them enough.
And I think what you said a couple podcasts ago about how it kind of forces you to play a little slower and forces you to kind of counter someone else and win second. I think I've been thinking about that a lot since you said that on the podcast, and I think that's spot on about Tivit.
Exactly, yeah. It just like helps you play the game the way that you're like supposed to win games.
cEDH,
I think
it helps you win cEDH games specifically really well.
Right, yeah. It does a lot. It draws you cards. It gives you mana. It acts as a haymaker. It is a win condition. That 3, I know 6 and 7 mana, those are very close. 3 pips versus 4 pips is a huge difference. Much easier to cast this on turn 2 or 3, whereas Atraxa, I felt there was no way I was getting out before turn 4 every game.
Even like a Jeweled Lotus opener is not very great for Atraxa.
Yeah. But so I'm excited to play another Thassa's Oracle deck. A deck without, I haven't played an Esper deck in a long time. I haven't played like a non-red fast deck, not like fast, but like Thoracle deck really in so long, it feels like. So I'm excited to win some games without Underworld Breach and without Dockside Extortionist.
Yeah, Esper always feels like a slower blue farm to me. Like all of those builds just feel like a clunkier version 100%. Of that.
To me, Rograk Silas is just fast blue farm and Tivit is just slow blue farm. These are just like the two sides of blue farm. They're doing basically a similar thing of like blue-black stuff, just with a little bit of white for slower protection, a little bit of red for extra speed. Blue farm gets both of those things in smaller amounts.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the whole format.
That's the whole format, yeah.
You could also play green cards, I guess, which I'm playing in my next 2 decks. I took apart Thrasios Dargo, or rather Dargo with Thrasios, as I was calling it. The deck is fucking awesome. Dargo is an incredibly broken card. The main reason I'm taking it apart is I just want to play Najeela. Honestly, I'm just gonna be honest. I want to play Najeela. I feel like Najeela's got a couple new toys that I haven't gotten to play with.
So yeah, what direction are you going in with Najeela? Because I know there's like the no bad cards versions. There's other ones that are like still more tempo-y built around her.
I think I'm going no bad cards. I think I'm playing Ad Nauseam. I was gonna go Birthing Pod, but my next choice of deck just told me to. I'm gonna do it Birthing Pod.
We'll
with
get
that
there
deck.
in a second. Yeah,
but yeah, I just want to play good cards in Najeela.
Yeah.
My main issue with Najeela always was if I had card advantage advantage in my hand, I would win the game easily. If I did not have card advantage, it was much more difficult. So I think I might lean towards more card advantage effects, more Archivist Agma, more Ledger Shredder, whatever type of cards.
Theory Masterminds, like any of these creatures that will draw you cards.
I think if anything, I'll lean a little bit more towards that direction.
Sylvan Library too, I assume.
Maybe, yeah. I've been cutting Sylvan Library lately, but maybe I'll bring it back for this one.
Especially from a 5-color deck, it can be tough to want to force in there. But if you are looking for just sheer more card advantage engines, that might be a good way to go.
Definitely. But Thrasios Dargo, that was the only reason I was taking it apart, is just because I wanted to change. I really did like the deck. It was a rewarding deck. It was, I think, kind of tricky to play, but the more I played it, the better I got with it, which felt really great.
Yeah, there's a lot of reward for being more invested in that deck, I would say.
Cards like Life's Legacy and Greater Good are just kind of like insane includes in a deck like that. With Thrasios and the One Ring and Seedborn Muse, you just get a huge boost of extra card draw, which is nuts in that deck.
Yeah, it just takes like things that are already good in that shell and turns them up like a huge notch then.
It allows some green cards to actually be good, like Greater Good and Life's Legacy. Like you get some like playable cards. But that was like the unfortunate thing, is like green has gotten so little recently. I want to play green less and less. And although I am switching to Najeela, which is still a green deck, Najeela is 5 colors. It gets to play all the colors. So,
again, like Orcish Bowmaster has also made me like not super interested in like playing mana dorks either.
Yeah,
so like even like my 5-color lists now have like Deathrite Shaman, maybe Birds of Paradise.
Yeah.
And then like that's it.
I've been cutting the Avacyn Pilgrims and Elvish Mystic types. I've been leaving in Noble Hierarch and Ignoble Hierarch, stuff that makes more than one color. Birds of Paradise, I still leave those in because I still think they're worth it.
Yeah.
And then I've been playing more, although I always play Deathrite Shaman when I can, but more Delighted Halfling.
The 2 toughness on that one's actually also pretty relevant too.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been cutting like Bloom Tender a little bit, which isn't a card that I played a ton of.
I historically have really liked Bloom Tender, especially in Thrasios decks and like advantage decks where you can just, your mana sink is your commander, but I have recently been just afraid of playing it so much more.
Yeah, and I don't think we have to like really like alter our whole decks around Orcish Bowmaster. It's not that omnipresent, but it is something to think about. I definitely have been thinking, like I said, I've been cutting Llanowar Elves here and there when I otherwise normally wouldn't.
If there's more upside to like playing other cards right now, I'd rather just play other cards than like let myself fall behind on board states constantly.
And I've also just been seeing more rats. There's more Toxic Deluges. There's more
Dams seeing a lot more play.
Yeah, I've even seen Blasphemous sacked a couple times. Like there's just more rats. The creatures have been getting really good recently. Yeah. Everyone's kind of catching on and understanding we need to play more removal.
It's about time.
So it's kind of only natural. So I'm leaning a little bit more against them than I normally would. But I'm still, as you'll see my next deck, I'm playing Timna Tana also. So I still am playing some Mana Dorks.
Nice. So you're back on Timna Tana.
Back on Timna Tana. I love Blood Pod always. I took it apart because I wanted to play Winota. And then when I took Winota apart, I never put it back together. I really like the deck a lot. It feels super comfortable for me. I love that it can pick a window pretty easily. It can win from 3 different cards out of nowhere. It has a bunch of different ways to tutor for those cards. It lacks blue, which is a bummer. I really, after playing so much Mad Farm recently, I need to play more blue decks, which is why the first 3 were all blue decks. But I also have a spot in my home for Blood Farm. Blood Pod, which has recently gotten a couple includes also.
I was going to say, what are the changes from this version from your last?
We've been talking a whole bunch about Orcish Bowmaster, which obviously gets as an awesome include in the Stacks deck. The new Linvala, the Orzhov.
Drana and Levana.
Drana and Linvala is a great card because it does exactly what Linvala did, but it also allows you to activate your opponent's stuff, which is great. There's a couple other smaller includes that I can't think of right now. I think I'm playing the Black Deflecting Swat.
Yeah.
What's the Black Deflecting Swat?
Imp's Mischief.
No.
Dude, it's totally Imp's Mischief.
No.
Don't even give me that
the commander
fucking
one.
shit.
The commander one. Not the deflecting swat in its ability. No.
Wait, the what?
Deadly Rollick.
Oh.
Deadly Rollick.
I see. That's the direction you were going in.
I'm also playing Deadly Rollick now in my Blood Pod deck.
I'm still right though. The Black Deflecting Swat is Imp's Mischief.
I guess what are those cycles called? If you control your commander, they're free.
If you control your commander spells,
that's way too
them.
long.
What's your idea?
FIYCYCs.
FYICYCs.
That's no good either.
That's amazing.
The commander free ones, free if you cast your commander.
That's why Rograk is good, because of the IFCYIFCs. That's not what it is. I said it wrong. FIYCYC. That's why Rograk is so good, because of all of the I can't even say it. That's why Rockrick is so good, because of all of the FIYCYCs.
You got
50
perfect.
black slick back hair wigs.
50 black slick back hair wigs.
50 black slick back hair wigs.
And those are my decks. See you in Vegas right now.
Did you take anything? No, you only had 3 decks. So
I only
you
had
added
3.
a 4th to your
Added
rotation
a 4th.
now.
I want a full pod. I want the ability to, hey, I'm going to teach you how to play cEDH. Here's 4 decks.
Here's 4 decks.
I want that option.
Don't get overwhelmed or anything. Here's 4 decks.
What
Learn
could
them
go
all
wrong?
right now? Yeah, that is awesome. Which one of these decks are you most excited about, do you think?
Rogsai, honestly.
Rogsai?
Yeah, I just want to play what I think is like the strongest deck in the format.
What makes you pinpoint that as you thinking the strongest deck in the format right now?
I think it's just like the 0. Although like Tymna Kraum like might be like a more powerful deck, I think like every deck has to be aware of Rogsai because it's like just like the fastest, most efficient.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to just get behind the wheels of that deck, and I love Grixis. I love Kess, so this is just fast Kess.
It's certainly what I still think to be the best color combination to be in, with just the most powerful options available to you. I don't know if I would consider it the best deck in the format, but it's definitely in the top 3, I think, right
what do you
now
think
for
is?
me. I'm always going to say that Blue Farm is the best deck in the format. It's the best partner options with the best draw in the command zone, and like we were talking about, it doesn't need to rely on its commander, so I think it is the color combination and commander pairing that's going to set you up for the most success.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think the white is mainly free include to Grixis, so like, and Tymna is just insane, and so is Kraum. I definitely get that.
I find there to be less downsides with Blue Farm than there are with Rograk Silas. Now, this is also coming from someone who gets like very frustrated, like when a deck can't continue to keep winning. And like I played Rogsai for a little bit and then went, well, now everyone's attacking me too. It's not just like I got stopped, but I'm also still getting attacked. And I would just put me in situations where I'm like, I don't want to be doing this. I don't know why I'm discouraging you on your deck there, because I think you're gonna like it a lot more than I liked it.
No, yeah, I definitely understand that. I just like, I love playing fast aggro all in decks. Like I love that style anyway. I don't mind losing on turn 2 and sitting and watching the table for the rest of the pod.
Yeah,
I don't mind that at all.
That's super okay with
right,
you.
like as long as I win enough games with the deck, which is what I think Rogsai will do, is like it'll win a good chunk of games. The games that it doesn't win, it's just not gonna do anything. I'm cool with that.
No, I'll
I don't
definitely
mind
be
that.
very scared of you while you're playing that deck.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Nice. That's really exciting.
Cool.
Well, that sounds good. Well, if you see us in Vegas, those are the decks that Dylan's going to be playing.
Come say what's up.
And no one's going to know the decks that I'm bringing to Vegas.
Oh, right, because we don't want to give anything away. You don't want to be targeted.
Yes, I'm going to spike Vegas.
You're gonna spike
all the casual,
the command
friendly
zone in
games.
Vegas.
Yeah,
I'm spiking
all
the
the
command
games
zone
that
for no
there's nothing
prizes.
on the line.
Nothing. Yeah.
Spike the shit out of them.
Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you'd like to check us out directly, if you'd like to support us directly, you can do so on Patreon like our $100 patrons.
Zachary Nelson, she doesn't even go here. Joey Aarons, SoCal Acura, Stormageddon, Cool Bean Man, Luke Cook, AJ Albo Sabi, Demon of Rosgrees, Kawaja A. Hamid, Lauren Connell, and Baby Jeebus.
If you want to pick up any of our merch, you can do that at playtowinmtg.com.
Big shout out to Dragon Shield. Thank you so much for supporting the show, and make sure you check out our affiliate link down below to help support us.
Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content.
And don't forget about the new Play to Win Jack and Jill logo shirts available at the bonfire link down below too. Thank you so much for watching.
See you next time.
Or listening.
Bye.
Says on MTG, Dalton Poteet, Kadonis, Lutri's dad, Dashes, Justin, Man Solo, Pedro, Jacob Deck, Michael Ballou, Got Wild Fang, Thomas Bueno, Swampy McGee, David Nelson, and Doorbag.
We'll wing it.
I can't fucking see anything now.
You're staring to the lights.
Yeah.
We'll do it live. Oh, it's already recording. Don't
Oh,
press
it is?
down.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. Okay.
That would be bad. Can you
Whoa.
imagine?
All right, here we go. Click. That would have been funny.
All right, and let's get started. Podcast ends. Lift up your hat just a little bit.
Just a little
Just-
bit?
there we go.
Okay, yeah. Leave that there. Leave that there so I can
Yeah,
see.
make sure that you can see.
Yeah, okay.
It was a little. You look like a helmet kid for a second.
Do we want to start over? Yeah. We haven't accomplished anything.
We've been rolling for almost 4 minutes now.
Almost 4 minutes.
Although a lot of that was me still sitting down.